Lab Wednesday. I'm your host, George Miller. I'm here almost every Wednesday, and my job is to help you develop in your career. And as we're getting started, I want to set the room for everybody. There's a few ways you can engage. I love it when you jump in directly here on Zoom, but be forewarned, it is live. So it's going to LinkedIn and YouTube. And if that is a concern for you, totally get it. I invite you to get your questions answered by typing into the comment section. So if you've got a question, I invite anything career related, anything from resumes, interviewing, to managing, to relationships with your boss, with sales outreach, with purpose in your career. You know, what's the why? Why are you doing it? A lot of people are unhappy, don't know how to be happy in their career. So it kind of wouldn't matter where they were at, wouldn't matter what company. You know, it's like that if I'm unhappy in myself, then it kind of doesn't matter where I go. So anything career related is on the table. I will probably tie it back to emotional intelligence because that's my expertise. Although I've got, you know, I've got many different tactics and tips and tricks in the career space over time. But I encourage you to ask any question that's on your heart, and I'll do my best to answer that. You know, while I'm getting going here, I want to make sure everybody knows that you can join in directly, or you can type your questions into the comment section. Either one will work. If you do type your questions into the comment section, I will do my best to answer those, but I like it when you stay on with me and let me know if I'm going in the direction that you want to go. If I'm really answering your question or if I'm off on some tangent of my own. So the topic that we're getting into today is why people burn out, why smart leaders burn out. You know, why is it that people burn out and what to do about it? So outward success can often hide inward depletion. So I can, you know, we're all, most of us have have our ways of looking good and often being really good at something. So if I am growing my business, there's obviously I'm having success with that. And if I'm going to keep doing that, I'm going to end up facing the realization that I am a limited resource. You know, that there's only so much time that I have, only so much focus that I have. And so I'm going to have to learn to let go of things. And that can be a tricky thing to do because everybody sees the world differently. Everybody sees the world a little differently. And so if I'm going to build a team, I am now getting into a whole new realm of challenges. Oh, okay. We got one question coming in. Great. Thank you for your question. So as you'll see, I'll jump right off of whatever I'm talking about and I'll address a question and I'll even see if I can weave it into what we're talking about today. So we got, it's not a question so much, it's a statement. It says financial independence. Well, I'd be curious to see, you know, where are you at in your career? How much money are you making? And financial independence, you know, it really depends on how you go about achieving that. You could get into a company and that pays well and make money and save and invest. And that is one way that a lot of people have created financial independence. Some people create financial independence by building a company and sometimes selling it, or that becomes their livelihood and their passion, and they want to keep it going. And you know, they're essentially financially independent because they have the lifestyle that they want, and they've got a flow of business that's helping maintain that. So I would say that you're going to want to start to look at what financial independence means to you. Because another thing is that the studies show on wealth, when you are the richer and richer you become, the more and more money you have, the more and more you want more money. So it's never enough. It's actually like an addiction. And so financial independence, what does that really mean to you? I would start with that question for yourself. Again, I don't know your age. I don't know kind of your story around that, but what's meaningful to you about being financially independent? You could ask, if I'm financially independent, then I will have da 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 da. Then I will be able to do whatever it is. And just start investigating why that's important to you. Okay, got it. So you're back in school and wanting to own your business one day, wanting to own a business. Oh, cool. Great. What are you going to school for? And is that something that, is you see a good opportunity to achieve financial independence on? So asking yourself why you want this might be one of the most important things, because you can achieve financial independence and it doesn't make you any happier. But if you're able to achieve that while you're doing stuff that's really meaningful to you, and you're able to see the impact that you're making in the world, etc., that's where that becomes even more meaningful for people. So I'd love it if you shared, what is it about financial independence that that really does it for you? What's important to you about that? So now I think this is great, because we're talking about burning out. As you're on your path of creating financial independence, there's going to be all kinds of wonderful challenges, things that will help you develop your character, that will help you develop as a person. Okay, physical therapy assistant. Okay, great. Well, so now I would like to know, why? Like, what is it that financial independence will do for you? Like, once you have that, then what is it that you would plan to do? What would it make okay for yourself? So, okay, got it. So you have come from a place where your parents were not financially independent. In fact, they were quite dependent. And so it was or is a maybe perhaps kind of painful to watch struggling people who you care about struggling later in life, and that can be incredibly painful. And so financial wellness is really something that is not taught. I certainly didn't learn that in school. Heck, I'm still learning financial wellness. Like, I did not start really understanding that until I had a business back in my 20s. And I started, that was my class I took in it. Okay. And so, got it. So you would want to, once achieving financial independence, you'd want to travel and you'd want to help people who need it. Yeah, you would want to be able to give to people, presumably what you have learned, which would be in a case like this, an understanding of how finances work so that you can build wealth, build security, you know. But that's what we really look at it. So I'm actually understanding this more now. It actually has more to do with security. So having more money, then you would meet that deep hunger, that yearning for security, and that knowing that you're going to be okay, that if a big medical bill comes in, you're going to be okay, that you're going to be able to, you know, pick and choose what kind of care that you want, that you're not going to you know, have to sacrifice things that you don't want to sacrifice in your life. So that's it. You're looking for abundance, and you're seeing finances as a way to help you do that. Cool. So, you know, some basic things then, and I'm going to tie this into this topic of burnout. So you're going to, as you're going back to school and you're developing yourself in your career, there's going to be all kinds of times that you want to buy something you don't really need. There's going to be all kinds of times that you would take the money that you've earned and put it to something to make yourself feel better. And that's one of the most common things. A mentor of mine, Dr. Judith Wright, did a book called Soft Addictions. And when you look at that kind of thing, there's nothing really horrible about it. It's not, you know, it's not like heroin or cocaine or something. Like, it's not going to quickly destroy your life. But it ends up kind of sapping away your energy over time. And so one of the key ways to avoid burnout, and this will be true for you. He was asking about creating financial independence, and this will be true for somebody who is wanting to grow their company, you know, 10 times, is that you're gonna have to find ways to get satisfied in ways that you haven't before, in ways that you didn't know were available to you. Because our willpower is really weak. Nobody has great willpower. We can train in to have a little more there. But if we don't know how to get more nourishment out of interactions, I will end up going back to old habits and spending money where I didn't need to spend money, etc. So, oh, cool. Okay, so you're seeing that. So yeah, so you're wanting security. So instead of having security be this thing that you're going to get to one day somewhere out there, you already went through burnout. Okay, yes, you know what I'm talking about. So instead of security being something that you're going to get to someday, you are going to learn how to get more security moment to moment. You are going to learn how to create more security for yourself in interactions with other people, how to create more security for yourself just inside yourself, how to be more comfortable in your own skin. You start with what's right in front of you. And then it doesn't have to be this giant goal out there that you are praying to God you hit. And you'll find that as you do that, as you learn to create more security for yourself moment to moment, you will be creating more financial security for yourself overall. So, I mean, this is I don't know if I'm making too big of leaps here, but Let me know what you think about that, because if I'm waiting for some time in the future, it only it I can only do that so long before I give up, and I then indulge in all the limiting beliefs that we all have. We're all imperfect creatures who don't think we're enough and don't think we matter and crap like that. We all have some of that going on. And so if I am holding out for something that's too distant in the future, I will give up and I'll say, see, you didn't really matter. So you knew you weren't worth it. You knew you didn't you weren't going to be able to do that. And as we get into this, it's messed up because that's easier. It's easier to do that. Our system is wired to keep us safe. So doing something different than what I've done before is a challenge. So even if it's like, I know it makes sense, I know I don't want to buy this Starbucks latte every day. I know it, but God, it just makes my life so much better. Like, I don't know if I could, go without it. So if I'm going to not buy that Starbucks latte every day, then I'm going to have to figure out how to nourish myself to meet whatever it is that was doing for me. I'm going to have to meet that some other way. I can't just remove something from my life and then not expect it to come back in. And I will dig down real deep. This is one of the reasons with 12-step programs. It's a spiritual hunger. I'm hungry for God. And if I'm going to remove something from my life, like alcohol or some other substance or whatever the addiction is, if I'm going to remove that from my life, now there's a gap. And I'm going to have to put something else in there, whether that's, a higher power or whatever. And so as you are developing in your career, you got to start looking at that. If you're in school, there's going to be all kinds of ways that you got to cut costs. That's just true. And then you identify, well, what are the things that really are worth me investing in? And the number one thing that's worth investing in is yourself, which is why I invest heavily in myself. I always have at least 3 coaches. There was a year or two ago, I had 5 coaches at one point. I'm investing in myself. I'll probably invest in myself again and go get a doctorate sometime. Like it's my lifestyle. I have chosen to invest in myself. As I invest in myself, things around me grow. So in investing in myself doesn't always, it makes even more sense to pay attention to what matters to me, because there's a lot of ways that some of my friends invest in themselves that, like, it's great for them, but it's not for me. Like an ice water dip for me happens to be a wonderful way to invest in myself. It's good for me. I enjoy it. Like, I've never regretted going into the water. That's not for everybody. Not everybody has that same experience that I do. Some people it's running. I've talked to people who it's like, oh yeah, when I make that investment in myself. So what are the investments in yourself that really pay off? It often comes to relationships then. anyway, so I'm kind of going on a rant there. Let me know if what I'm saying is helpful, you know. And so you mentioned that you already went through burnout. Um, did you learn your lesson from it? Do you know the warning signs of when you're on the path to that again? Because that tends to happen. That can happen, more than once in a lifetime, where a breakdown happens. Yeah, got it. Okay, yeah, good. So you like having mentors? Absolutely, me too. So there's this thing in leadership where if I keep doing things the same way that I've done them before, you've heard that's the definition of insanity. And if I'm going to grow, then there's no way that that's going to work. So I'm going to have to learn new skills, and I'm going to have to let go of stuff. Oh, I love that. I just had a client who realized, as they made a career transition, they're moving into something that actually, in some ways, is easier for them. And yet they're letting go of a bunch of relationships. Now they'll stay in touch. These people will be friends from their previous company, but it's not the same. They're not working together in the same capacity, and so they're experiencing a profound loss right now. It's a big deal. And if they didn't let themselves mourn that loss, they didn't let themselves feel sad about it, that would start to add to the next, to a potential burnout. Because we need to have our feelings flow through us in order to not burn out. It's like, if I am spending the energy to not feel sad about the loss of the job that I just left, going to the new one, and I'm like resisting that takes energy. It takes energy. And as a leader is growing, they are going to lose things along the way. And if they are resisting losing those things, resisting admitting that they miss some of those things, whatever it is, that can add to the burnout that occurs. So having these inner tools, being aware, being able to have empathy for oneself and acknowledge what's going on is one of the most effective things I've seen for leaders not burning out. So, oh, got it. You just said, I hope so. So we're coming up on the halfway mark, and I just want to check in with everybody listening in who, if you have questions, let me know. Type your questions into the comment section. I love interacting with questions and seeing how well I can do with helping somebody move along. Let me know if this has been helpful so far. So the security, looking at understanding that financial independence is really a core part of that, is a yearning for security. And I can assume then too that when you went through burnout, that it was ultimately you were trying to meet that yearning for security, and you weren't finding that was really happening. So you kept trying things, and it wasn't working, and so it never really landed for you, and you weren't really able to take in levels of security that you may have actually been creating. They may have actually been there, you just didn't know how to take it in. It's kind of like a compliment. Like, somebody can be all butt sore about not getting, like, oh, nobody appreciates me, and then like people try to compliment them, and like they're like, oh yeah, it it wasn't that great or whatever. And it's like they brush off compliments. And it's like, well, you know, you're making it hard to give you a compliment, and the stuff that's right there for you, like you're not taking it in. Most of us don't know how to take in stuff the way that we could. Yeah, you overdid it at work. Yeah, you know, I mean, Lord knows there's plenty of work to do. Anybody can work themselves to death. Like that's available to anybody. And so that's its own addiction. Dear God, absolutely. The more people I talk to over time, I mean, just how much people work without um working hard, not smart necessarily. We gotta, of course, we gotta learn how to work hard. There are people who don't know how to work hard, and that is a skill for them to develop. But there's there's learning how to take in nourishment while working. Um, so I hope that's helpful. Let me know if you have more questions. Let me know if there's anything else you want. Um, I actually have a fair amount of work to do this afternoon. I just gotten some more clients coming in here, so I'm probably going to leave a little early today. So if there's anything that you're wanting, please, please, please put it into the chat. Please put it into the comment section. Um, if you want to talk with me one-on-one, you can schedule with me. It's a 15-minute session. I'll take the time that I can with you there, 15, 20 to 25 minutes. And a lot of times with somebody, they just want the affirmation that they're on. Like talking it through quickly can help somebody kind of realize, okay, I'm on the path that I understand. That's all I want here. Sometimes it's a bigger project about really changing the relationship to oneself so that they can change the relationships around them. And if somebody's switching careers or switching jobs, or moving up, becoming a director or VP, somebody's moving into a higher role, somebody's starting their own company and needing to really address themselves first and make sure they're in good shape. That we can talk about a longer what a longer coaching relationship would look like. And I've got a variety of things that I'm playing with. We're not, obviously, if you're in Chicago, the lake isn't cold anymore, but I'm always inviting people into that in the winter. But if you are wanting to connect in some kind of a group capacity, I'm I am looking more and more to do group trainings. It's what I do for Maharishi International University, and as well as the Human Emergence Group, and I love doing that. So um, that is something that I offer as well. But anyway, start with a phone call with me, or a phone call or a Zoom meeting. You can set that up on that link. Thank you, Jane, for providing that. And I like to throw out some other tools as well. My Connect and Thrive, it's based off of, there's some similarities to DISC. It's a basic personality assessment. Doesn't take long to do, but you can take a look at that. And the most important thing in this one is to identify the other personality styles, to begin practicing speaking their language. So there's a test that you take for that, and then there's a video that you can review. It gives you a little more insight into how to spot other personality styles and how to communicate together. Let's take a look at that. Well, everyone, thank you for joining in today. I will be back next week. I'm here almost every week of the year, and my goal is to help you develop in your career by becoming more you, by being more in touch with your feelings, learning how to communicate yourself more and more effectively, understanding how what you want is so important. What you want, your desires, make an impact in the world around you. And that is often such a thing that gets overlooked in people. So many people learn how to do for others what they wish was done for them. And so you can be really good at whatever your job is, but if you don't know how to do it for yourself, it's almost like, what's the point? I've shared this story before, but this, I think, is a good one for closing here on this topic of how to not burn out. How do leaders, how do high performers sidestep burning out? So key thing is getting more nourishment, and you'll see right here in this story how this is done. So client, great presenter, and she hated presenting. It was a challenge. It's like, those people who go to a networking event, they're good at it, they do all that, but then they're like so exhausted afterwards, and it like really takes them out of it. It's like she did not want to keep doing this. She was seriously thinking about switching careers, even though she was successful, because she dreaded and she hated dreading this. So as she identified where these performance patterns came from, how she came to be so good at presenting, how she came to be so good at being so alert and tending to other people, well, then she was able to see that she was overcompensating. She could see that in fact she was wasting a lot of energy, and was able to first pay attention to what her fears and her scarcities were, and then make a valuable decision for herself and say, oh, okay, instead of always explaining and performing and looking good to these clients, I can actually just address my concerns and say, well, here's the concerns I have about why our product wouldn't be a good fit for you. She learned to just take the pressure right off of herself. This is what I'm afraid of, but what are your concerns? And then putting that anxiety right back on her client, where honestly is where the anxiety should be in the first place. And then all she had to do was help people sort through things. And this, she could then grow even more in her career. She ended up becoming the director for the whole region around sales, because she got really good at it. And then she was able to help people use their fear to ask more intelligent questions, to ask oftentimes the obvious questions. So I hope that story is a little inspiring for you and helps you understand how leaders can develop, how high performers can continue to the next level without burning out. Because you're not going to get there by just trying things harder. All right. Well, take care, everybody. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for that. I appreciate you asking about financial independence and the journey that we went on exploring what financial independence could look like for you and why it's important to you. And so I hope that you're able to get more of those hungers for security met moment by